I think I mentioned at the start of the video, the lesson, sorry, that I'll be using these to create quick and dirty spec maps. Let me see if this is working up. I guess I can probably quickly run through that now. Okay. You can send information back and forth between Photoshop with Control P. When Photoshop wakes up, come on. When it wakes up, there we go. Yep, so it sends the information back and forth between Photoshop with Control P. Yeah, so even just by doing that, I can see that my values are quite dull right now. I really need to punch them up a bit, and I'll probably use, I can either do it in Photoshop or 3D Code, but I can play with layers, adjustment layers, things like curves. If I select the right layer, to play with them and make sure it's sort of in the right value range. It was way too dull before. Yeah, so maybe something like that. So you can use Photoshop to do that, which is really cool. But what I was going to do is, yeah, you can quickly create a spec map to test things out. And what a spec map is there's two different things. There's a specular map and a glossy map, a glossiness map, if we're talking sort of the previous gen way of doing things. And we'll be creating both of them. What a glossiness map does is it controls let's draw the picture. If this is like a sphere, and you have your specular highlight, in the old way, previous gen, the glossiness map will control how tight that highlight is. Maybe it's like a little sharp pin dot, or maybe it's like this sort of very spread out, diffuse highlight. That's what a glossiness map will control, and the spec map will control the intensity of that, the grayscale value. So you have a really broad glossiness map like this one, but the spec value is very low. So maybe it'll render like this, like a very subtle, soft spec. So that's what we need to create two maps to actually achieve that. And yeah, we can use these maps to quickly do that. Metal, it's going to be quite shiny. So we have a value range here. Usually, the way spec maps work is if we have you sort of, if black's down here and white is down here on your gloss map, this is our little object. The highlight, if it's white, will be a tiny little pin dot. If it's black, it's pretty much going to be this massive broad highlight. And spec, same thing as I showed before. If it's black, it's not going to show up at all. If it's white, it's going to be full. If it's something in between, it'll be a little bit depending on the glossiness factor.